Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 5. I'm your host, Kunal Patel. We're here in Kunal's Corner once again. I know there's been a 2-week hiatus. School life happened, but obviously I wanted to come back on here because a lot has obviously happened in those 2 weeks that we have not spoken. We're here on May 20th, meaning the Western Conference Finals is already tipped off. It's 8 p.m. Central, so we'll definitely talk about that. But before I get into the topics for this week's discussion or debate, whatever you want to call this, I'm going solo tonight. It's going to be my first time going solo. It's obviously a little weird seeing myself, talking to myself, but you know what? Most of the time, these thoughts are in my head anyway, and when I'm watching sports, I'm thinking about things, and I'm like, I wonder if people think the same thing or if people disagree. And so here's my chance to test it out. Obviously, I prefer to have guests. I think it's a little more natural, a little more easy to have that flow, the ebb and flow of the conversations, the debate I kind of want to get into. I can't debate myself. So this week's going to be a little different. I think I'm going to go a little more predictions, a little more on the record for some of the things that I expect or I'm going to anticipate happening in the sports world. Let's see how it goes. I'm hoping to get back on track next Monday or Tuesday with a guest, so be on the lookout for that. But let's get into it. I mentioned it's been 2 weeks, so I'm going to try to go back in like chronological order of the last time we spoke, which was about May 6th is the last time. And so since then, what happened? Golden State, no longer with us. They lost. Steph Curry got hurt after game one, or during game one, I should say. And it looks like they were going to be very, very competitive, if not even win that series against Minnesota. Obviously, without their superstar in Steph Curry, Golden State didn't really stand a chance. So they're out. Minnesota moves on. On the other side of the bracket, we had a absolute war between OKC and Denver. Denver steals game one, and then OKC fights back. And honestly, the games OKC won, they kind of dominated. So I'm still confused. Obviously, if you listened throughout these episodes, I had the Clippers making it all the way to the Western Conference Finals, beating Denver, obviously, in round one, which they did not, and beating this OKC team. So clearly, I'm not sold on this OKC team, but I got to say, Game 7, I watched it because it's Game 7, the best 2 words in sports. I sat down and I was like, this is going to be epic. You got Jokic, the best player in the world. You got SGA, assuming he's going to win MVP. You got this great home crowd in OKC. You've got this Denver team that's kind of limping. This isn't the finish line, but they're limping to this milestone of the Western Conference Finals. Gordon's hurt. Porter, we knew, was hurt. Westbrook's been up and down. He had a terrible plus-minus in the 7 games. I think it was in the 90s, minus 90 for the minutes he was on the floor. So clearly this Denver team was limping, but you don't want to count out Jokic. So that Game 7 that happened not 2 days ago was an ass-kicking, if we're being honest. OKC found something in this matchup where they had Caruso, who probably like 6'4", on a good day, 6'3" even, battling Jokic, a 7-footer that probably had over 100 pounds on Caruso. And Caruso held his own, drawing fouls, getting turnovers, live ball turnovers that are leading to layups on the other side. I heard someone say this OKC team is kind of like an NFL defensive team where they can blitz you from the corner. They can blitz you from the safety. They can maybe just get to you with a 4-man rush. They have all these different variations of a defense that they can throw out, right? Trap, they can go zone, they can go man, they got length, they got speed, they got size. With the 2 bigs, they got Chet and Hartenstein. I watched that Game 7 and I was like, Minnesota's not beating this team. That was my initial thought. And honestly, I look at the 2 East teams, I was like, I don't think anybody on the East can beat them. So I was very, very impressed with OKC. I'll get into their matchup with the Minnesota. But before I go on, I mean, that Denver team, got to look in the mirror now. Like Jokic, I talk about windows a lot. I'm going to talk about it at the end of this episode as well. Jokic is the best player in the world. I think he's been the best player for the last 3, maybe 4 years, roughly. And they've got 1 championship, 1 finals appearance to say for it. And so now, they fire their GM, they fire their head coach. this is a critical offseason. I mean, we know Jokic isn't going to play basketball that long. He's clearly got his interest going back home and doing his horse riding, but you want to maximize your opportunity. You still have Jamal Murray, who's a proven playoff winner. You still got Jokic. You got Aaron Gordon, who's a freaking dog. Shout out to him. Porter on a tradable contract. So Denver, it's going to be interesting. A very interesting offseason for them. And hopefully they can retool and regroup, because I think Jokic is probably the best player to even watch. Like, if you truly, truly enjoy watching basketball, enjoy watching high IQ players, that's Jokic. I think he's got the highest IQ out there today, and you can see it when you watch him. So I'm gonna miss him if they're not competing in the next few years. All right, so that's the West. We got Minnesota OKC. That game has tipped off as I'm recording this right now. But let's go to the East, because I think the East is what we got, a 6 seed and a 3 seed, is it, or a 2 seed? So obviously not what we anticipated when the season started, that Indy Pacers, and the New York Knicks would be meeting for the Eastern Conference Finals. So how do we get there? I think let's start with the Pacers Cavs series. 2 weeks ago, I definitely said, hey, I like this Pacers team a lot. I think they can steal some games against Cleveland. I did not think they were going to win, and not only win, it's kind of an ass kicking. They kind of handled the Cavs, the best team in the East, best team. I think they had the best record by a long shot in the East. And so, they obviously had injuries. Garland missed a game. Mobley was limping around. Mitchell kind of tweaked his ankle a little bit, but I'm not going to make any excuses. The Pacers handled them. I mean, Tyrese, and the way they did it, like, taking 2 in Cleveland, and then the comeback in that one of the clinching games, the comeback, like it was just kind of embarrassing if you're a Cavs fan. And then before I jump to the Pacers, speaking of interesting off seasons, the Cavs have one as well. You got Mobley, who, let's assume he wins Defensive Player of the Year. That's going to kick in like a kicker in his contract, and he's going to be owed even more money. Mitchell's on a max contract. Garland's due up. You got Allen getting paid. All 4 of those things can't be true based on the new CBA, the collective bargaining agreement. So, Cleveland, you got some work to do this offseason. But let's not talk about them. The Pacers. The Indy Pacers. Look, I don't know what to think about this team. Halliburton is such a polarizing player, in my opinion. I mean, the players' poll came out during the series, and we saw that he was voted the most overrated player by the players, by his peers. So that's kind of a slap in the face if I'm Halliburton, if I'm being honest. But his game speaks for himself, man. I mean, I think he's one of the truer point guards now that we're seeing the tail end of Chris Paul's career. Luka's not really a true point guard. You got Harden, not a true point guard. Like, those are 2 players that handle the ball and dominate the ball. Yes, they rack up the assists, but when I think true point guards, I think of like the Chris Paul era, the Jason Kidd era, Darren Williams, those guys. And I think Tyrese is kind of that true point guard. He's got the floater game. He averages like double-digit assists the last couple of seasons, and he can shoot the 3. He can spread the floor, and now he's got this, like, I don't even know what to call it, a weird step back that he separates just enough, and he's pretty tall and lanky, so he can get a shot over most defenders. So Tyrese has put himself in a really, really good spot. Personally, I really, really enjoy watching him play, just because he is a true point guard, pass first, floater game, and so he's been awesome. Honestly, I think they're going to need Siakam to step up against this Knicks team, because Halliburton, it's going to be a tough matchup with the Knicks throwing OG, Mikal, even Josh Hart, a lot of length, a lot of physicality at Halliburton. So they're going to try to neutralize Halliburton and say, everybody else on the Pacers, you got to beat us. Meaning, Nembhard, go ahead, drop 20. Hey, Mathurin, shoot this 3. Siakam, go ahead. Turner, knock yourself out. It's everybody else who's going to step up for the Pacers. That's going to be very, very interesting. But Tyrese is a problem, man. I'm really, really enjoying watching him play. And who are they playing? I kind of referenced it, but the Knicks. And so last time we spoke, I think Boston had just fallen Yeah, the last time we spoke, Boston blew game 1. That was 2 weeks ago, and Jesus, I think the outlook has dramatically flipped for if you're a Celtics fan. Since 2 weeks, 2 weeks is not that long. Since then, we got mock trades going out where Jaylen Brown's getting traded, Drew Holiday's getting traded. Jason Tatum, if you don't know by now, I don't think you're listening to this and don't know that Jason Tatum tore his Achilles, and I think that's at least 6 to 8 months recovery, probably a longer end of that range. So looking like 8 months, and the timing of when it happened means he's essentially going to miss the regular season next year. And so no Tatum. You got this collective bargaining agreement kicking in, so the Celtics have the highest payroll, and they're going to be under the tax implications. So more than likely they're going to be making some trades and shedding some salary cap. And so as of even today, we've seen some trades where like Jaylen Brown's getting traded. Derek White and the Warriors have some like mutual interest. Drew Holiday, KP Porzingis is on expiring. Now, hopefully he doesn't have HIV or AIDS, whatever is going on the internet. I don't want to assume things, but it does not look good for KP, my man. And so he's likely going to get shipped out. And so Boston's in trouble. I'll be honest. Again, when at the top of the episode, I was saying windows. If you're Boston now, this was another example of maybe a window closing. I hate to overreact because Tatum is young. He's a really, really good athlete. He got surgery hours after it happened, so I even read into that there's potential that because he got surgery right after, he was already in New York, so he got surgery hours after it actually happening, that could shave off some time of rehab. So let's see what happens with Tatum, but it's not looking good if you're a Celtics fan. Let's talk about the winners. New York. How can you not like New York? The scenes outside of Madison Square Garden, the Bing Bong, the Side Talk NYC account. I know you know what I'm talking about. That shit is awesome. That shit is epic. Like, I'm a Knicks fan. I went to one Knicks game last year, bought a shirt because I was like, this is the Mecca. Like, MSG, this is the place to be. And so I'm definitely rooting for the Knicks. I know I got some Pacers cousins that are diehards, and they're going to kill me for that. But I want to see the Knicks in the finals. This series with the Knicks and Pacers is going to be fantastic. I mean, I think the Knicks match up pretty well with them. I mentioned it earlier. Halliburton, they're going to be able to throw some size, length, physicality with them. The one thing that scares me is the longer this series goes, I think it favors Indy. I say that because depth. Indy plays like 10 guys. Rick Carlisle will go down his bench and play like the 8th or 9th man on the rotation. Meanwhile, we know Tom Thibodeau sticks to his starters. He's got maybe 7, 8, I would go like 7.5 players that he trusts in a playoff game. You're going to get a little bit of McBride. They found something in Mitch Robinson. He's playing really well. Maybe a little campaign as a spark plug, but good Lord, you're not getting too much out of him. So I've got the Knicks in 6. They got home court. So we're going to game 1 starts tomorrow in Madison Square. I got them in 6. But I think game 1 will be very, very indicative because both teams are kind of well rested, right? Just the way the scheduling went. The East teams got a lot more rest than the West. So it'll be interesting. But I got the Knicks in 6. And again, I think, not that I'm going to change my stance depending on what happens in game 1, but I think game 1 will be very indicative because you're going to see how the matchups go. You're going to see the rotations and kind of the chess match between these two teams. And it's a rivalry. It's a rivalry that hasn't really been relevant just because both franchises haven't been where they were in the 90s. But here we go. I think we're going to see some physicality. We know Mathurin gets into it. We know Josh Hart can be physical. JB is pretty physical, so it's going to be very, very interesting. So Knicks in 6. I told you I'm gonna go on record this week because I'm by myself. So Knicks in 6. Let's shift to the Western Conference Finals real fast. And like I said, that game has started, end of the first right now. But look, OKC, I mentioned it. It's a team I haven't been able to figure out if I actually think they're really, really good or like they're not that good. Because if I'm being honest, can we sit back and say that Denver team wasn't very good? They were they were like 2 Aaron Gordon plays away from getting swept. Let's call it what it was. And I think I should have screenshotted it because I can't find it now, but I saw something that this was the 3rd largest margin of victory from a series that went 7 games, meaning presumably OKC only won 1 more game than Denver did, but they still ended up winning by like an aggregate score of 60-65, I want to say that number was. Now, I get it. Game 7 skewed a lot of that. But if you even take out that outlier, the games OKC won, I felt like they kind of handled. The games Denver won, they kind of limped across it. So is OKC that team? Like, Denver wasn't that good. So but then I watch OKC, how dominant they were in Game 7. I'm like, damn, if they can do that, it's going to be hard to beat that team 4 out of 7 times. On the flip side, I've said I really, really like Ant Edwards. He was one of the guys I was really excited to watch this playoffs, and I think he's done it at a high level, but he hasn't reached his max, in my opinion, at least this playoff run, because he's struggled offensively. He's played really well from like a turnover assist standpoint, but he hasn't had that come on stage game like what we saw last year in that Phoenix series with Anthony Edwards. And so as much as I would love to see the young cat in the finals in MSG going against Indianapolis, I don't know that Timberwolves team. And what scares me, and it's funny because I watched the first 2 minutes of this game 1, prior to sitting down, and one of the notes I had was Gobert will need to stay on the court. I literally have that. Gobert will need to stay on the court against OKC's bigs. Game 1, 2 fouls in 90 seconds. That cannot happen. I know one of them was SGA. It wasn't a foul merchant. I don't want to call him that, but a nice pump fake. Gobert fell for it. Foul 1. Foul 2 was him battling for an offensive rebound where he doesn't have a chance at the ball. Like, you got to be better. You got to be smarter. I'm afraid when Gobert is out, OKC still has some bigs. 2 bigs, technically, Chet and Hartenstein, and then they have the other Jalen Williams off the bench. Caruso has shown that he can be physical with big men. And so I just think OKC has a little bit more to offer. Jalen Williams in Game 7, we saw him kind of right the ship a little bit. And so can he keep that momentum going? They're going to need a second. They're going to need their Robin. You know SGA's Batman. You know you're going to get that. Who's going to be that second guy? Is it going to be Chet? I don't see it. Chet's good. I'm just saying Western Conference Finals. I don't know if you're going to get like 25 from him. But Jalen Williams, on the other hand, you got to step up. This is it. He struggled last year. That was your first crack at it. It's okay. Second time around, if you want to be a superstar, if you want to be that perennial all-star, this is where you get paid the big bucks. He's got to step up in this round. With all of that being said, I mean, it's a coin flip, but I'm not going to go 7 because I think one of these teams will handle business. I'm just going to I lean OKC, so I'm going to go OKC in 6, meaning we got an OKC New York finals, which would be very, very interesting. I think any matchup we get out of these 4 teams is going to be awesome. You may not have like the big market. You have New York, excluding New York, Indy, Minnesota, and OKC are not big markets. I hate to say it. They got great crowds. I think that OKC crowd's the best in the league. Indy, I love the gold, the blue collar. They really grasp it. They own it and they run with it. So I think no matter what happens, we're going to get a very competitive finals. So look, that's my predictions. I got OKC to recap. OKC in 6, New York in 6. I'm not going to jump to the finals because by next week, both of those series could be very, very different. It may not be OKC. It may not be New York. So I'm going to wait for the finals while we get there. But the next thing I kind of want to quickly touch on is a Tatum injury. I mentioned it. We talked about it. But let's go bigger picture here, what that means. I already talked about the implications for the Celtics. They may have to trade players, get under that tax. What's he going to look like post Achilles? But let's just look at the East real fast. So Giannis presumably asked for a trade. He may be out. The teams that he's been linked to are Houston, San Antonio. I've seen some Golden State chatter that he's really intrigued by playing with Steph Curry. I mean, who wouldn't be? Let's just say those three teams. Dallas, because they got the 1 seed. We'll talk about, or the 1 pick. We'll talk about that. 4 teams I just named are all in the West. The East is not going to be as good. Let's just put it that way. Milwaukee, even if Giannis stays, Dame's out for the year. Boston, Tatum's out for the year. So that's 2 playoff teams already that's taken they're digressing, right? I'm not saying they're not going to make the playoffs. You still have Brown. You still have Tatum if you're the Bucks. You should still make the playoffs in a weak East. And then you got New York and Indy, who, assuming the roster is basically intact. I mean, you made the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think you're going to blow it up if you're either team. They're going to be good. Orlando's improving. They need to get shooting, but they're going to be better. If they can stay healthy, Wagner, Suggs, the other Wagner, Paolo, they're good. You got Detroit, a young team, only going to get better. Another year of Cade. You get Jaden Ivey back. Make some moves around the edges. I think they can be very good. A healthy Philly. I even hate myself for saying that because I don't think they're going to stay healthy. But if they do, Embiid was an all-star or an MVP not too long ago. You got the 3rd overall pick. You can turn that into something. Paul George, maybe if he stops this whole podcasting thing, maybe he can be good. So look, if you're Boston, you're kind of in trouble. A year ago, I would have said this is the start of a dynasty. They looked so freaking good. Even this year, I thought they were going to win the finals. I thought they were playing with their food, even when they went down 2-0 to New York. I was texting people Boston in 7, and I actually meant it. But one wrong turn of a leg can change your season and your outlook if you're Boston. And so, very, very interested what they do. I already mentioned Drew, Derek White, KP, and now even Brown, all potential trades. Not all 4. Let me rephrase that. 2 of the 4, I can go on record and say they're going to be gone. That's a and Horford, I didn't even mention Horford. He's probably going to retire. And if he doesn't, he's not going out for money anymore, I don't think. At this point, I think he's going for a ring, which, sorry, I don't think his best chance to win a ring is Boston any longer. Does he sign a vet minimum with, I don't know, Houston? He could be a very good vet guy to get presence in the locker room. Maybe he goes to New York or Detroit or wherever, but that Boston team is going to look very, very different, and it's just unfortunate. I'm not a Boston fan, but when you see an injury like that, it just hurts. I like Tatum. I think he's really, really good, and I just hope he's going to be 90% of what he was. So hopefully he's good. All right, last topic. I got to do it. Is the NBA rigged? That shit was crazy. So obviously the playoffs have been going on since we last spoke, and if you've been listening closely, I've been talking about that lottery that happened, I think, last Monday night, where it pertained to my Rockets. I didn't think it mattered for the Dallas Mavs, but it did. The Dallas Mavericks had a 1.8% chance to win the lottery. And I was watching it on kind of a delay, so I saw it on Twitter first. I saw that they moved up to the top 4. So the way it works, they go ping pong ball, lottery system, you have odds, and then they go the top. They go 14 through 5. They announce those, commercial break, and then go 4, 3, 2, 1, and that's how they announce it. And so I was on Twitter. I saw that Dallas had moved up, Philly had moved up, San Antonio had moved up, and I think it was Charlotte. So already I'm like, one of those 4 teams is getting the top pick, and none of them were projected the top odds to get it. So A, that's crazy. B, Dallas was projected, I think, the 13th or 14th pick, 11th pick. So they moved up 10 spots. San Antonio, that was their second pick already, so they moved up. So it was just madness. And then, fast forward to the end, the Mavericks get the first pick. The Spurs get the second pick, which is also very, very relevant, and then the Philly gets the 3rd pick overall. in what a lot of people are saying are a top 3 draft. And then there's a little bit of a drop off, but I think there's a lot of talent, like 1 through 7 in this draft. And so shout out to those teams. Let me just say the Mavs go from Dirk to Luka. You already know what happened to Luka. Got traded not too long ago, 3 months ago. And now they get their shining knight in armor, the White Knight. Let's call him the White Knight, Cooper freaking Flag. I had some buddies text me asking me what I thought of Cooper Flag. He's a dog. Ultra competitive. Was getting buckets against this USA team, the Olympic team last summer. He's young for his age because I think he enrolled early. Played pretty well at Duke. They made it quite far in the tournament. They did blow it against U of H in the Final Four, if you recall. And I think he turned the ball over late in games. That was a little bit of a knock on him. But at the end of the day, he's a teenager. I don't think he's older than 18. 19 at most. 6'8". Combo, small forward, power forward. You probably want to play him at power forward in today's game, but he can go small forward. It's positionless basketball. If you got a guy like Cooper Flag, it doesn't matter where you put him. He needs to be on the court. He needs to be a part of your rotation, be a part of your offense, and he will make an impact on the defensive end. It's very unfortunate that Kyrie got hurt because, I mean, it's hard to say this because if Kyrie doesn't get hurt, they probably don't end up with this pick in the first place. But you still rather not wish on injuries. But assuming Kyrie didn't get hurt, this Mavs roster could be very, very good. And then the inverse of that could be if you're Nico, you already made a win now trade with the AD thing. You're not tanking. Nico's always talked about like windows. I keep talking about windows too. But your window to grasp it is here. You just got a freaking lifeline sent to you, really, if you're Nico Harrison. I mean, arguably he should have gotten fired, and now he gets saved by this lottery system. And so he has a chance to get Cooper Flag, who he could, in theory, be your guy for the next 20 years. Now, we thought Luka was going to be that guy, but now you got this Flag situation. So I expect them to keep the pick. You'd be a fool to trade it. The only person I would trade it for is Giannis, but I don't think that's enough if I'm Milwaukee. It would have to be like Flag, Lively, contracts to make it work, and more picks, not just this one. I like Cooper, but Giannis is a proven superstar, so you need more. Speaking of Giannis, I want to touch on one more thing. The Spurs jumped up. They have the 14th overall pick, courtesy of a trade from Atlanta. And then they have the 2nd overall pick. That jumped up quite a bit. They weren't expected to be there, but here they are at the 2nd overall. Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper, maybe VJ Edgecombe, Trey Johnson from Texas. There are some players that you can slide in next to Vic Wembanyama, and he could play. You already have Fox. You have your point guard of the future. You have Keldon Johnson. You have Devin Vassell. You have Harrison Barnes, I believe, is still on that team. Maybe not. But look, they got talent. So basically what I'm trying... Stephon Castle. I didn't even mention Stephon Castle. Holy shit. The reigning rookie of the year. My point there is them getting the 2nd overall pick and having 14. Let's not ignore that. They can easily call up Milwaukee and say, all right, what do you want? You got the 2nd overall pick. You got the 14. That for sure I'm giving you. Stephon Castle, Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, some contracts. They have more picks from the DeJounte trade, so they have picks to give up as well in the future. San Antonio is probably in the lead in terms of packages that they can offer Milwaukee, and that's why it was such a lose situation if you're Houston, because there was 3 outcomes, and all of them went bad. Dallas, your in-state rival, moves all the way up to 1. San Antonio, not only your in-state rival, but the rival that has the other big trade asset or trade package for Giannis, moves all the way up to 2. And then Houston actually stayed pat, or actually they ended up falling back 1 spot to 10. And so the 10th pick is good. I'm not saying it's not. It's still a lottery pick in a pretty deep draft, like I mentioned. the 10 pick, you can get some talent. But now if you're Milwaukee, you're like, the odds I find my franchise cornerstone at 10 is not very high. Meanwhile, if I'm picking at 2, I can do a lot more damage if I'm Milwaukee. So a lot of ramifications for that lottery. I think this offseason is going to be a lot of movement on the, call it like the edges. I don't think a lot of superstars minus Giannis, maybe Jaylen Brown if they like let it go. LaMelo Ball, I've been seeing some trade rumors. Maybe Trae Young, maybe Ja, Kuminga. I don't know if he's a superstar, but there's going to be players that are getting traded mainly because of the CBA. And that second apron that's going to start hitting and impacting teams. So it's going to be very interesting to see how teams react to that. But let's see. I mean, we're not there at the offseason yet. I don't want to jump the gun. We got the conference finals ongoing right now, so I'm really excited. I've talked for 30 minutes. That is 31 minutes to be exact, and I wanted to hit it right at that 30-minute mark. So maybe I'm pretty good at the solo thing. I don't know, but I really am excited. Like, I want to keep this going. I need to get some more guests lined up because I love talking this shit. As soon as the NBA kind of starts to wrap up, we may take a hiatus, right? Because that is call it the dog days of the summer. But then we got some NFL storylines already starting to make its ways to the headlines, right? Like flag football, the tush push getting banned, the Arch Manning hype. Don't worry, we'll talk a lot of college football. So I'm excited. More to come, more guests to come. But hopefully I just proved to myself and to the listeners that I can maybe do this solo if I need to every now and then. But again, preference is to have a guest. So with that being said, appreciate the listeners. Always open to feedback. Let's keep this thing going. Let's keep having conversations about sports and the things we like to debate. And have a good one. Peace out, guys.